Hi guys, another Thursday night live. Y'all have to excuse me, I just whooped down supper. I had to come running out here in a hurry and make sure remember everything's backwards up to you, Blackie. Make sure all my stuff is in proper position. There we go. Hope y'all have a good. It finally cooled off a little bit here. Um, we actually had fairly cool air early this morning, and it's only like 79 right now, which is awesome. Big E Knife, hello there. Randy, good evening. I can't wait, man. I am so ready to get out there and get camping, but just got to cool off just a little bit. Craig, that was an older picture that I found, but wanted to share it. Good evening, Bear. Fishing Golf, hello to Illinois. Kenneth, good evening. Turtle D, good evening. Jesse, good evening. What it was, I was actually doing that canoe is I was turning it around, and I had nosed in the day before, and I wanted to turn it around and put butt in. So I just stepped out in it, and I did have life preserver in the boat, and all I was going to do is just turn around and then dock again, so to speak. And my wife took a picture of it, but I thought it'd be a good teaching thing to post that. And I think I'm going to start doing that a little bit. I'm going to do, can you figure out what I'm doing wrong and do some pictures and posts? But we'll see. Patriot, good evening. Yeah, I did. I started just a minute or two early. Knife Pro, good evening. North Carolina. Jeff, good evening. Andy, hello to South Georgia. Yeah, Phil, hopefully this fall, hopefully Florida will cool off a little bit. Y'all don't really get winter down there, but you know what I mean? Make it comfortable. Yeah, I know, Jesse. All I was doing just turning it around and just going to ram it back up on the shore. But I'm really pleased with everybody started catching the things. Like, it wasn't trimmed right. I'm sitting in the bow seat because it had been nosed in instead of going all the way and turning it around. And if I'd been sitting in the rear side, I'd been more in the middle and be more balanced. I can sit in the bow seat, but I need to add weight to trim it and make it lay flat. You see about 4 feet of the bow was actually hanging in the air. It's not in the water. It makes you real quick, spirally maneuvery, and there'll be times that's actually a good thing. If you got a fairly long canoe in a very narrow little creek and you got to make tight turns, moving the center of balance back, making you sit deeper so you can swing that bow. Disadvantage, you don't want to get out in open water with that because the wind's going to just blow you like a kite everywhere. You can't hold it in position because there's no, the keel's too much out of the water. You need that straight track. Dead Prepper, good evening. Will, good evening. Woo! It was in Blairsville. It was in the 50s. Cool. Will, 64 in South Carolina. Oh, we're almost there. Hang in there. We're almost through the summer. We're almost there. Ravenwood, 71 in Southwest Ohio. Awesome. Hello there, Justin. Yeah, Justin is suffering. He's still in the 110, 112 degree temps in Texas. That he's just sitting there. Yeah, Andy, I saw that. And I am planning on being up at 6 in the morning and going out. And if nothing else, I'm going to make me up a cup of hot chocolate, fire up my little stove and do that type stuff and enjoy that. Terry, good evening. Ken Albridge, good evening. Play us in, good evening. Craig, 65, the low of 49 here. Ooh, take me with you. Take me with you. Yeah, Justin, 112 today and 106, but tomorrow will be 99-ish. Hang in there, brother. I know it's tough. Will, how is Sir Grouch doing? I saw him last Saturday. for about an hour visit, and he's doing really, really well. And like I said, once it cools just a little bit, I plan on going over with my camera, and me and him will sit on the back deck and smoke our pipes and talk some more. So I plan on this fall getting as much of that on camera as I can, to have something for me to look at in the years to come, you know. Dead Prepper, Blackie, what's your thoughts on swapping out paracord ridge line and guy lines for bungee cord? Bungee cord is exactly that. It stretches, and you can't get a truly good tight ridge line. It's fine when it's not under load. When it's under load is when you got heavy rain coming down, and it'll just sag on down because it's a bungee cord. For many years, they advocated that you would hook up your ridge line, your tarp, by just hooking a bungee cord around a tree and then hooking to the tarp. And yes, it technically will get it up, but if you get any kind of heavy rain or snow or even heavy wind, it just stretches all the time, and you can't get it to sit taut. And so that's the reason I stay with my line and don't put a bungee of any kind in it as a shock absorber. I make sure that the load is on the ridge line and not on the tarp, the way I connect it. So, Johnny, what's the deal with the last 2 months? Everyone trying to reinvent the ridge line. I mean, what could possibly happen that you have a ridge line put up within a minute and you're going to die? Well, it's just the topic of the day, you know. It's a good thing, like I pointed out with my posting on Facebook of my old haversack kit from way back in the 2010 that I was carrying when I started my channel. You should look at your gear from time to time and say, is this the best now? Has things changed? Has something new come up, etc.? And so it's one of those things. And yeah, it's going to go around the circuit. You're going to see the newest, hottest cook kit, and everybody's trying it. And the newest, hottest ridge line, the newest, hottest tarp. And it's just I think part of it is it's hot, it's summer, and everybody's just like this, ready to get out there and anything to play with, that you can do without dying of heat. I think it's a big part of it. And just it right now it's the topic of interest. Susan, hello to hot and sweaty North Texas. Tiny Titan, good evening. David Bookhalter, hello to Orlando. Rhett, good evening. Lambo and Doc, hello there. Fishing golf, bank line versus paracord for the ridge line or tie outs, comparable. I have used both, and I prefer the ridge line itself be paracord, with the Prusik knots being bank line. Two different kinds, they grip better. My drop lines that go down to be the ground lines, I use bank line for that. Instead of the paracord way over loaded for that. And it just seems to make a big bulky tarp set to have all that much paracord in it. So I use my ridge line itself is paracord. My Prusik knots and all my guy lines are all bank line. Is the way I run. Johnny, ridge line with Prusik and tackles works great. I'm sticking with it. I agree with you. I recently put up or will put up. Things start running together, guys. I'm trying to get ahead because I'm about to start another season of me being gone a lot. So I'm going to the Gather thing in West Virginia first weekend of September. Then beginning of October, I'm doing the Silver Wolf classes. Then like 2 weeks after that, I'm doing a little impromptu camp out at the lake. Then in November, I'm going to Georgia Bushcraft. I'm going to be teaching a class there. And then in December, I'm going down near Ocala and Orlando area to teach at the Rewild gathering down there. So I'm going to be busy. And so I'm kind of trying to do some videos and get them in the vault, so to speak, so I can have everything lined up. So forgive me if some of them starts jumbling that you ain't seen yet, because I shot it a week ago and it ain't posted yet. But the double toggle and the regular toggle, that's what I'm using right now, and works just fine. I'm happy with it. But now the new things like you saw today that came out, that's a good idea. I would have, especially for somebody that doesn't have a lot of hand articulation. Yeah, that'd be a pretty good way to go. So we're going to look at that a little bit. I'll play with it and see if there's anything I can add to it or pass it on to Silverwolves in some way. Just not here yet because everything starts locking up on you. Creek Camper, good evening, sir. You're doing good videos, sir. Chris Robbins, good evening. Hello. Cow Tipper, hello to Louisiana. Gordon, I'm planning on building a camper out of my 2005 Ford Explorer. I'm wanting to show what I'm doing. Do you think I'll get more views out of shorts or full-length video? Make a little combination. The best day to post for long duration content is on Sundays, because that's when people got leisure time to sit there and watch a 45-minute video or something. When you're talking about how to, I don't know, hook up a light, let's say, do that in as short as you can, like 2, 3, 4 minutes or less, right? And then something that you're about to show is going to take 10 minutes to really detail it and show what you're doing. Do that for Sunday. So a little mix is going to do your best to get the most views. Okay, S. Trucker, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Jesse, how much open fire cooking do you do as opposed to pack stove cooking when backpacking the woods wandering? Usually, if it's just a day type thing, we're coming out to fish, you're going to sling up a tarp, hammock, fish and all that, I'll probably use just a stove, to be honest. If it's an overnight, we're going to be here for 2 or 3 days, and we're using this as a base camp, 90% of it becomes open fire cooking then. Because I've got a ready source fire and I'm constantly feeding it, as long as I've got just plenty of firewood around, and but my trangias and stuff like that definitely serve a purpose to be that quick. I need to stop for 10 minutes. I just want to heat me up something hot to drink because it's a cold day, and while the stove's cooling down, I'll be drinking my drink. When it's done, rinse out, dash, put it all together and go, instead of the time of building a fire, and then I got to make sure that fire is completely out before I move on. On the other hand, if I'm in a base camp where I'm going to have a fire going anyway for warmth, let's say, it's going to be 90% of it. I'll just keep coals going and realize I'm about a half hour from now, I think I'm going to want to eat lunch or something. I'll throw a little extra in there, get a little extra coals going, rake them to the side so I can heat up whatever. So that's the way I kind of run it. Blackie, I got an older Natchez buoy of cold steel. Doing research on a cable tang, supposed to be a large guitar string in it to absorb vibration. I seem to recall something about that. Yeah, kind of like the tuning fork hammers they came out with, that when you chop down on something, it would greatly lessen. One of the things, that shock wave's got to go somewhere, and in a handle, a blacksmith made big knife, like a kukri that's actually made overseas, can have different heat treat in the same blade. My kukri is a 25 on the back of it, and it's about a 70 on the dang edge. And that allows it to flex. That's the reason it don't break easy. But modern knives, you go from these big names, those are killing. The whole thing is an even 60 or whatever. And that shock wave, when you hit something, it's got to go somewhere, and it's going to find the weak link. And whenever you're coming down the edge and you got a nice thin little edge, and then it goes and goes out to the square 1/4-inch bar stock, that's where it wants to crack and break. And you see a lot of these knives snapping off at the handle. By putting something in there like that, what you're talking about, it kind of dissipates that and keeps that shock wave from hitting there, and it holds up better. I remember Cold Steel experimented pretty in depth about that, trying to limit vibration for chopping and to keep them from snapping. And I think they're pretty successful. James Singer shot your pocket police. Good. Got a good mainspring in it. Awesome. Washburn Billy, that's what you do. Take it a step at a time. There is no rush. Learn. I was teaching Roger, a good friend of mine, how to do knots. And I said, I want you to learn these 5 knots. And every night, I want you to tie these knots. Just get you a chair sitting there, and you're going to use it to tie to. And watch TV, whatever. When you get where you can tie the knot and still keep up what's going on TV, you're not really having to concentrate on doing the knot. You've got it committed to muscle memory and mind memory, and you can do it over and over again. And now he has no problem. He'll do a trucker's hitch. He'll do whatever like that. But I gave him 5 knots for him to be able to set up his camp, and this should handle 95% of what you're doing, and he can do them like that now. And take it a step at a time. Dave Wright, hello to Gettysburg. You'd like some more cooking videos? I'm going to be completely redoing all my cooking videos. I'm making a list now of every video and what the topic was and what I was doing. And I'm going to replace them. And so we're going to start out with canteen cup cooking. And I'm going to redo every recipe I did already. Much better light, much better way to do it where you can see it more completely. A menu list of what we're going to need to do this, etc. And also I'll add other dishes in there. And then I'm going to shift up to bush pot cooking for the bigger stuff. And then after that, we're going to shift over to like the Dutch ovens and stuff like that. And it's going to be one big cooking series, but I'm going to break it down into these sections. But that's going to be starting not too long in the future. Dead Prepper, when you're partying in the woods, what do you enjoy sipping on? Usually really good scotch is my poison of preference. I'm not a beer drinker, never cared for it. I was raised on White Lightning and stuff with the kick and a bite. So kick and a bite's what I normally go for. All right, let me catch up. Y'all getting ahead of me. Oh, Ravenwood, you came to the Ground Pounder series. That has been a very popular series, and it came about because a young man that was actually a friend of mine's friend actually does Vietnam reenacting, and he wanted to know how to put up a hooch. And I said, sure, I'll show you some surplus stuff in my old gear. And he came over, and I dug out all my old gear, and his eyes got about that big. You know, this was surplus I camped with when I was your age. And that's where it got started, the Ground Pounder series, to show him some of the tips and tricks back when I could do ground pounding a lot. But there'll be more coming in that. Woods Walker, 1964. Howdy. Johnny, what company has the best testing MRE dehydrated meals? They're all pretty close. The government puts forth a certain requirement. So anytime they're trying to match that, it's going to be similar in taste. That APAC is pretty good stuff. I don't mind the vegetarian stuff as long as I don't have to eat a steady diet of it. The military issue ones can be really, really good as well. I keep a little journal, and in the back of the journal, I list down the ones I really like. So I get one I haven't tried, I'll put the name back there, and then after I eat it, I'll put a 1, 2, or 3. 1 is, better than starvation. 3 is, buy more of these. And I put that through there. And then there's an X. That means never buy this damn thing again. And I think there's 2 or 3 X's I got in there. No. But that's how I do it with me. And I've tried several different. I know Bear just did a video that will be coming out tomorrow where he's doing a comparison of one of those APACs we get down there from the surplus place. So check out Bear's channel. It'll be up tomorrow. Stacy Sparks, Old Crow. Yeah, Old Forester, Old Crow. Uh, uh, Cuddy Sark. I like Cuddy Sark. Dead Prepper. Blackie, do you have any interest in demonstrating military surplus tents? The only military surplus tents I have access to right now is I do have an old pup tent, and the ladies at the surplus place have volunteered to let me borrow one of their pop-up military tents to do. The big, huge tent like I used to have, which was I want to say it was like a 15 by 15, or maybe it was a 20 by 20 military modular. I set up and used it for a garage for 15 years. So finally the canvas gave up. Don't have access to one of them right now. That's about the only tents I got in military surplus I can get a hold of. Michigan Silverback, good evening. Elvin, hello. KS Trucker, I'm just learning all this. What's the best cooking setup, aluminum or stainless? Between the two of them, I would pick stainless, but thick aluminum will do better than thin stainless. The bottom line comes into how thick's the material, because thicker material is more even heating, and the old really, really thin super light that all the backpackers want, all they're doing is boiling water. It's hard to burn something in that, but if you're trying to heat up a can of chili, you will burn it before you heat it, because the temperature goes like from oh to too quick. So I prefer stainless because it's usually a little thicker and a little tougher and holds up better to longevity, and it usually is a little more forgiving in the heat department, where it will not heat up quite as fast as that thin aluminum. But if 99% of what you're doing is just heating up water or something real liquidy, either one's good. But if it's anything kind of drier, like chili or beans or any of those dishes you dump in a thing, macaroni and cheese, you'll burn it in thin aluminum. And so go the stainless of those two. Yep, buy once, cry once. I agree. Rye whiskey, rye whiskey, rye whiskey, I cry. If I don't get rye whiskey, I think I will die. I remember quite a few of them old rendezvous songs. Yeah, titanium is really expensive, and it burns as easy as thin aluminum to me. It's not ounces you're worried about. Go with something a little thicker. Woodswalker, I'm glad. The ladies down there at Kaufman's are great ladies. They really are. And they will take the time to go look for you. And I really, really appreciate that. Especially, as you know, a lot of these places you call up and you ask for something, and if it ain't 50 of them sitting right in front of them, they don't know, they don't have a clue, by and hang up on you. But those ladies down there will actually go out and dig in all that big, huge warehouse trying to find it for you. So that's one of the reasons I recommend them ladies down there. Will Rowell, is Colt still a good brand of 1911? Yes, if it's been picked up by CZ, and CZ makes some really good stuff. So I haven't had a 1911 by CZ Colt in my hand yet, but I have had several other CZ guns, and I was very impressed with how well they work. So I was very enheartened to see that they bought it. I was really worried it was going to be some south of the border or whatever, and it'd be just junk. So. Andy Knight, Blackie, your thoughts on the Kel-Tec 32 ACP pocket auto? I have fired the little bitty pocket, the little bitty Caltex in the 9, and I have shot in 380. I have not done it in 32, but I would assume that it would be very similar to the 380. And so I think it'd be very reliable for a personal self defense up close. Use really good hollow points in it. The 32 ACP at one time with the silver tips had the highest single fire stop ratio of anything. They beat 45 and 9 because FBI would publish every year. It was all the shootings, all the calibers, how many single shots ended the fight, one hit, and it was over. And of course, every year is 9 and 45 arguing, but the 32 ACP kept coming in up there in like the top 3. And so it can be, as long as you're up close, personal defense range, and really good hollow point, it can be very effective. Oh, okay, trucker, I hear you. Turtle Day, yeah, you can still find a lot of the Coleman stuff and stuff, especially at yard sale, garage sales. I've picked them up, I don't know how many times, still in the box where somebody got it for Christmas and never used it, and then pick it up for $25. In fact, I've just recently got rid of like 6 Coleman stoves that I had got that had picked up at garage sales or whatever for $10 each. I had one. It's the old, it's the suitcase type green one that's got the heavy grate, the 2 holes in the grate that goes over the burner, the 1950s or 60 version. Worked perfectly fine. I cleaned it. In fact, I did a video of me cleaning it up and everything. And I think I paid $5 or $10 a piece for both of them. So just, they didn't want them, and so that's the best way to find them. I tell people is just look around yard sales, stuff like that, and you'll find a Coleman stove usually. Yeah, Woods Walker, I'm glad that they will. They'll look and they'll call you back. And especially you tell them Blackie sent me, they'll hand select. They'll find the best one they can find. Tony, good evening. Sean Lawson, good evening. James Singer, good evening. Okay, Johnny, uh, they're open Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. Central Time till 4 p.m. Central Time. And then they're not open on the weekends except in the fall during hunting season. So you're probably calling during time they're shut down. So they'll normally pick up within like 2 or 3 rings unless they're way out in the warehouse digging for something. So Jonathan, good evening. Terry, good evening. Buck 112, hello to Rome, Georgia. Carlos, good evening. Oh, running your Blue Eddy, awesome. Randy, actually, the 25 ACP was the original Bond gun. And the thing about it is, when you step back a little bit, you remember now, when Fleming was writing those books, was World War II time period, and a lot of the behind the curtain guys were carrying 25s because they were so easily concealed. The 25 ACP cartridge loaded pre 1950 is about a third to double the power of a modern one. And what had happened was in the 1960s and 70s, all these super cheap junk, zinc, like little Ravens and stuff, 25 ACPs came out, and they would just come apart. And so they actually dumbed down the ammunition, because when you go and look at the velocity of a 25 ACP in like Elmer Keith's book, written in the early 1960s, it was over 1,000 feet per second, like 1,200 feet per second. from a 25 ACP. That sucker was burned, blind, and deafened when it came out. But you look now and it's 600 or 700 feet per second, And so when he wrote about that, it was a 25 ACP. Later he said the 32 Beretta. And but yeah, Ian Fleming. Number one, Big Bear. Welcome to the thing. How hard is it to make black powder caps? The cap itself is easy. Getting the detonation compound to go into it is a kind of a hunt and shoot a little bit. Good evening, Stephen. In the past, we reworked toy caps. Can't find them anymore. There was a stuff called Primol that you use an eyedropper and put a drop into each cap and let it dry, and it worked. Haven't seen that. And so the actual tap a cap to make the cap body, fairly easy. Finding the actual stuff to go in. It's not difficult. It's just time consuming, but you got to get that stuff. And I've not seen that stuff in a while now. I know a lot of people talking about making caps because caps are ridiculous in price. Absolutely stupid in price. But I don't know. I haven't got into it. I buy it when I find them. I got over 1,000 because I saw they were up, and I just jumped in and bought me 1,000 at a time. So I'm okay right now. But when I run out, it's going to be a hard hunt. Gordon, yep, good idea, making your own bed. KS Trucker, can you get a truck and trailer in their lot? Yes, you can. They've got a big rolling gate. You may have to roll the gate a little bit wider, but they do have 18-wheelers come in. They got a loading dock. So yes, you can. They have flatbeds and stuff in there bringing them stuff, so it can be done. Robbie, good evening. Well, yeah. Not only will they sell stuff, they'll ship it. And we have had a couple people that, like my followers, come down on vacation, coming to the beach and come up there for the day and bought a lot, and then they'll box it up and ship it home for you where you ain't even got to put it back on the plane. So that way you could go in and pick what you want and say how much to ship it, and they'll FedEx it back to your house for you. Jesse, Blackie, is your hammock a double or single, and do you sleep on diagonal? Mine is a double, my big camping hammock that I use, and I do sleep on a diagonal. My one that I carry in my haversack is a single, but I can sleep on a diagonal to a point in it. Okay, Michigan Silverback. What I've got in there is a One Wind Ultralight is what it's called. It's about the size of a Coke can, right? I'm 5'10" and I'm 200 pounds. My friend Dan Lutz was able to get into that hammock, and he was 6'7", 400. So yeah, it'd be a little tight. But if you're around 6 foot and around 200, I think it'll take you. And they're not that expensive. They really aren't. And they fit in a haversack perfect. Ravenwood Survival. When do you plan on being in South Ohio? I don't have anything planned right now. I'm going to Virginia, West Virginia, for this coming event. First weekend of September, the Gather thing that's going to be in West Virginia at that state park. I'll be up there. That's the only one I'm coming up. Now, next year, I'll come up to Pathfinder, whenever that is, and I'll be in Ohio then. But that's the only plans I got right now to go to Ohio. Unless, and if something changes, okay, James Bender wants me to come up, me and him come up and do a couple of days video at his place. And he's there in southwestern Ohio. If I do that, I'll let everybody know I'm coming to Ohio. Might, get together and have lunch or something. Stupid stop. All right, hello. Go Bo Wivels. Terry, is there a good time to contact William Collins, original knife design in mind? I would say probably on a Saturday afternoon. Send him a message and just tell him to set up a time that's good for him and then work with that because he stays busy. Robbie, does a surplus shop ship to Ireland? To my knowledge, they'll ship anywhere. To my knowledge, just call up Master Ladies and they'll do. Robbie, let me give you the phone number. It is area code 334 898 1770. Their business hours are 10 a.m. till 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, Central U.S. time. Give them a holler and tell them that Blackie sent you. And if nothing else, they'll quote you the rate of whatever it's going to cost to ship to you. I believe they've shipped to Germany before. So, JB, Blackie, do you ever think about designing any more knives? Man, I got WC knives. I got the Mad Knife Wizard on speed dial. I don't have to do a knife. I love his designs, and I worked with William to help come up with that design and to have the WC SK and stuff. So I'm kind of happy right now. Yeah. Charles Martin, Blackie, even though I live in the desert, do you think it would be a good idea to have a hammock in my bag? Yes. A hammock can be used in multiple ways, especially that roll-up one. One, you can open it up out flat like a ground sheet to be able to lay on your dirt. You can tie it between two boulders in a gully or an arroyo. You can tie it between two poles. You can rig up tripods and stake it if you got big enough for whatever. I have good friends of mine that lived out in the California deserts, and they carried hammocks for that very reason. And they would send me pictures where they'd find two big boulders close enough, and they took big straps and would just strap to the boulders and hang the hammock between them, or go from the back bumper of the car to a big boulder or something. Get them up off the ground because they didn't want to be laying with the scorpions and the snakes and everything else. So it can be a good idea even out there. Robbie, you're welcome. Tim Funk, hello to East Berlin, PA. Oh, good. Ravenwood, you're in contact with James Bender. Good. I want to go up there and spend some time with him, and especially might do it this winter. We'll see. I'm trying to juggle all this stuff around, but I'd love to go up there and spend like 2 or 3 days with him. Work around his schedule and me and him do some videos together and stuff. It'd just be I really like him, really respect him. He's a good fella. All right, Jesse. Everything's in the production line. We don't jump to the front. Billy Poe, hello to Flint, Michigan. Dead prepper, the bottom of your DD hammock is waterproof and can be deployed on the ground. Again, makes it very versatile for that. I've had to use one as a ground sheet before because there were just no trees big enough to support me. And so I've had to convert it over to be a ground setup. Matt Smith, good evening. Oh, yeah, Johnny. James Bender is a certified hobo, and that's a compliment. True. He's a great fellow. Christopher Chapman, looking for a cap ball revolver and 30 caliber, 36, 51 Navy. Would be the cheapest one. You can find them quite often in brass frame. A lot of times you can find them on sale in the 250-degree range. They'll hold up well, good for target, good for shooting small game, etc. You get a lot of bullets for the pound of lead, casting them yourself, and you get a lot of shots for a pound of powder. So it's really economical, especially when you're just getting into it. Yeah, instead of going up for the big power ones like 44 and stuff, you're shooting a whole lot of lead and a whole lot of powder down range, and you don't need that when you're learning and you just learn how to shoot it. I also recommend the Remington. They make where was I looking at the other day? But you can get a 36 caliber Remington, 58 with a fixed frame, and those are a really good start out gun because it shoots more like our modern guns. Good, Ravenwoods. I'm glad he is helping you out. Will, 25 ACP or 22 long rifle for a pocket gun? 22 long rifle, and get the punch flat point lead bullets for it. They'll be the best for doing that. Cow Tipper, Blackie, have you ever dabbled into cast or SAS shooting? I have in the past. Never been part of a club or nothing, but I've been a super fan of the single action and the cap and balls and the Henrys and all of the above, and the 73s and the double barrel shotguns, black powder loaded, and rabbit ears. And oh yeah, I've shot things and done things before there was a cast and a SAS. We would do old West shoots and stuff like that. So it's a lot of fun. Just never got real into it. I was doing living history, doing rendezvousing, and I didn't have the spare time to come over and go into it when it really took off. Billy Poe, hello to Flint, Michigan. Paul, well, hello to Brisbane, Australia. Gray Wolf, good evening. Oh, good. James Bender's doing a collaboration. I saw where he did that collaboration with Felix Immerman, or whatever his name is, a gentleman from overseas. I was real surprised with that. Wow. Good job, Billy. That will take care of most of your stuff. Mountain Woods Runner, good evening. Yeah, I've Dead Prepper, can you and Bear do a rabbit and squirrel hunting cooking upload? Yes, we can do that. Yes, thank you, Johnny. Felix Imler. Felix Imler. Excuse me, my southern tongue got wrapped around my teeth and can't see what I'm saying. But me and Bear have talked about doing a squirrel hunt. In fact, we went out the other day just scouting around looking at a hog and stuff. And that video, it will be always 61. It'll pop up this Sunday. And we're in thick cover, right off the edge of the road on property he owns. I mean, you can't see 2 feet. And I went to walk up, and in the grass down there ahead of me, you'll see everything. Something moved like that, and I heard a rattler go, like that. Like he was like, like he's pulling in the coil up, and he did like that, with it stretched out. And I, whoop, hold on, we got a bell turn. Here comes Bear. Where's that? Back up. Well, I was just going to point this out right here. You're probably within striking range, Dingleberry. You can't see that far into that stuff, and he's standing. If it's a 6-footer, he's easily, I'm saying, back up, we're going to have this on camera. Here's where Bear gets hit. But that'll be up Sunday. It's just something real quick that happened, you know, but like, yeah, we're going to do some, a little bit of that, a little bit of squirrel hunt. He loves to hunt with double barrels, and I've got a double barrel. He's got a double barrel. And so we're going to go out one cool morning and sit up under the oaks and see if we can get a couple of squirrels, maybe a bunny or two. Gulf Coast, Blackie, I'm heading up to Talladega National Forest for Labor Day. Do you recommend a spot to check out? I really can't. I've been up there several times, but my knowledge is way out of date. The times I ran those trails was back in the 80s, and I just don't know enough, to be honest, to give you anything recent as an idea. Turtle D, yes, Felix the Sack guy. Jesse, Blackie, what's your first go-to for starting a fire in camp? Then backups, practical instead of romance. Usually a lighter is the fastest thing. If we're just setting up and we're going to be camp, you know, and I've got a fairly dry camp, fairly dry tinder, fairly dry tinder bundle of whatever, I'll pull the ferrule rod off my sheath, take my knife, and strike it, go. If it's been raining for a day or two, or anything's damp, or I'm in a hurry, I'm tired, I want to get a fire going, and I'm going to sit down. I'm going to pull that big lighter out and go and get fire. Is the process here to practice skills, or the process to build a fire? That's my priority. And if we're practicing skills, I might pull out a Fresnel lens and try to do a cold. Or if we got plenty of time and the weather conditions right and low humidity down here in my area, I might even try to go carve out a bow drill to try it, just for fun, you know. But as far as always grab that lighter. And especially, and I've said this in videos and I sincerely mean it, when it's for real, you're sick, you're cold, you're already shivering, do not do anything primitive. Pull out the lighter and get a fire going. You know, I want to challenge myself. Yeah, that's how hypothermia gets here. You know, practice the skills so you can when you have no choice. But always have that lighter. Always. I've told the story many, many times of when Grouch was teaching me to do a bow drill back in the mid-'80s. And I went and spent a week with him down there on his thousands of acres on that creek. And every day at lunch, I had to, from scratch, create a bow drill set. Get a coal, blow it in, light the fire for the lunchtime coffee. And then the last thing you did was you pulled your string off and threw the entire set in the fire and burned it. And I did that every day for a week. And finally on Sunday, because he's sitting there giving me a little more pressure, all right, a little longer stroke. Don't be in such a rush. Heat it up, that type of deal. All right, you got that little breeze. Turn your board so the breeze is giving you a little quarter into there. Not too much, but not too little air. It's not robbing oxygen from your coal. He'd give me pointers sitting there smoking his pipe. The old sage upon the mount and the wee prince trying to learn how to stand in the shoes type deal. Now, when I threw that last bow drill in that fire on Sunday, that was 7 days. And he pulled his pipe out and he said, well, what have you learned? And I looked at him and said, I'll carry a damn lighter in my pocket to the day I die. And he laughed. He said, me too. That's what I learned from that. Learn the skill, own the skill, but don't rely on that skill. You know, always have an alternative where there is nothing else. Stephen LeDrain, Blackie, when's your next round of your Red Hawk haversack? And I need to another one of your pouches, one that goes along the haversack. If you'll look down in the description, that's the contact. I am winding up. I've been letting orders trickle in. And so from now till, I'd say probably, today is the 22nd. The 30th of August, I'm going to cut it off. And that'll be coming in October, late October. So I am still taking a few orders right now. You can get any of my stuff right now. But just go down there to that Outdoor Alabama, or the Outdoor Alabama, I'm sorry, downndirtywoodscraft at gmail.com. I got it down in the description box. And say, send me a price list, and I'll send you the entire price list of everything I got that's available. And if you want to go ahead and order, you can get in. But like I said, not tomorrow, but a week from tomorrow, 30th. I'm cutting it off so that we got time to get it. Jay's working to stay ahead, but you understand. And the people that ordered stuff for August, the first run has come in. I've already sent them out of the Weehawk pouches and the Sparrowhawks. That was a standalone, only one of these two of those. The combos and stuff, the rucksacks and the haversacks have not arrived. They're on the way now. James already dropped them in. They're just, hopefully they'll be here tomorrow or Saturday. And then I'll ship them out next week. That's the plan. So I will get them all out for the August run. We'll all get out between now and the end of next week. And then those that ordered the new Red Hawk haversacks, those will be coming in next month. And then after that is the ones we're talking about right now. They'll be coming in October. So everything's still going semi according to plan. Woodswalker, I carry 2 Bic lighters, 1 large ferro rod, and some quick tabs. Tender tabs are very important. I fully agree. And when I have stressed my fire kits and I talk about 3 sources of ignition, 3 sources of tinder, 2 of which work whenever they're wet. So just to make sure I can make a fire in just about any condition. Randy Miller, Blackie, I'm in South Wheeling. Where is the gathering in West Virginia? I cannot call the name right off the top of my head, but it's kind of in the center part of the state. If you'll go do a search for the Gather Thing, THING, it'll pop right up and give you all the information. Me and Dakota will be coming up on Thursday. It's going to be about a 15 hour drive for us to get up there. And then we'll be there Friday, Saturday, and we'll probably leave out around lunch Sunday heading back because it is going to be such a long run for us. But get a chance, come out and say hey. Johnny, Blackie, best homemade fire starters. Best homemade fire starters. My fire straw, which is taking a big McDonald's straw, and you take petroleum jelly, cotton ball, and a magnesium block, that Doan's bar the military gives you, and a file. Take you a clean piece or a saucer, and onto it, take the magnesium block and do like that on that file and make a little pile of dust. Then take you a spoon and go backwards. Instead of scooping it up like you're eating it, use the back of the spoon and go backwards through that Vaseline. And that's not only about the right amount that clings to that, it's about the right amount. And then take that and roll it in that dust and pick that dust up and bed it into that stuff, and then grind that into a cotton ball. It should not be 100% saturated because then it don't want to catch a spark, but get it worked into a cotton ball. Tear the cotton ball up. Then take you a straw. And this is an early video of mine. If you do a search in my stuff looking for fire straw, it'll take you all the way back. I talked about this in 2008, 2009. And I'll take a chopstick and pack it in it. And I can use that to heat up canteen rations. I can use it as a fire starter. I can use it as a candle. I can also, if I don't put the magnesium in it, I can use the Vaseline and cotton for wound care and stuff. But to me, that's one of the best homemade ones that'll work really, really well. You can put a bunch of them in the side pouch on a canteen. Yeah, James, that's some of my old stuff. It's amazing how that stuff. I'm just short of 1,700 videos, guys. And the vast majority of them are still up here. But a lot of times it goes Blackie in a video, and I've got to pull out the Rolodex now. What were we talking about? And but that's one of my first videos that I did sharing it, because I've done them for years. and years. And I've had a lot of people come back years later and go, dang, I forgot about you talked about making these. They're real compact. They're waterproof. They don't take up a lot of space. And yeah, I put a lot of them in the side patch on a canteen and put a lighter on the other side. And I got a fire source. Bluestone. Thank you, Jesse. That's where the gathering at Bluestone State Park there in West Virginia. I knew it was Blue something, but I suck at names, guys. I can I have a memory that I can tell you the first time I met you and the entire details of the entire conversation when you and I met and talked. But on the other hand, I can't remember your name for Jack. And people that I work with, I'll have to recite their name in my head over and over and over again to get it to stick. If a woman's name begins with a letter A, I want to call her Amanda. I don't care who she is, because my grandmother's name was Amanda. And so all A name women are Amanda. Even if it's Amy or Angie or Ashley, it becomes Amanda. And I have to mentally check myself from calling them Amanda. And that's where I got a like mental block about names, I guess, when I was little. Hike with Mike. Hey there. Okay, I'm catching back up now. Yeah, Turtle Day. They do have those magnesium blocks at Harbor Freight. Charles Martin, you tried watching the ground pounder series but got burned out. I hear you. Jump around. I mean, there's like 70 videos in that. That ain't my biggest playlist. Down in Dirty Woodscraft was over 200, I think. So, yeah, take a break. Everybody needs a break from Blackie. Even Blackie needs a break from Blackie. So come on. Matt Thompson, good evening. Oh man, James, yeah, waiting for that as seen on TV folding saw to make a rip. No, it's gone. I traded it off a long time ago. But what was really cool about that was it actually took a sawzall blade, is what it was. And so I could go get a sawzall blade, the long one, and it locked right in perfectly. So the blade they gave you was diamond dusted, so you could cut metal, you could whatever. But the one you see in my videos, that's actually a sawzall wood cutting blade or a hybrid blade, so I could cut metal or wood with that. And I carried that saw for quite a while, and I had a bigger name than me woodscrafter YouTube channel individual that we were at an event and was kind of calling me out on it because they had a Baco Laplander and I had this, and they said there's nothing that piece of junk can't do this Baco can't do. I went, really? And I walked over and there was a cut stop sign where somebody, you know what I'm talking about, but it already had a third of it cut off, was laying there in a scrap pile at this event being used in something else. And I asked the guy, can I borrow this for a second? He said, yeah. And I walked over and I whipped out that thing and I took that sawzall blade and I cut off. I said, I can make an arrowhead. Here you go, take your Baco and cut it. Mine can cut metal as well as wood. Yours is only a wood saw. And so for a urban survival tool, mine's better. That's reading somebody bought it off of me. They live in a big city. And he said, Blackie, I want one of those so I can carry a couple of different blades because I might have to cut through chain link fence. I might have to cut through padlocks, whatever, to get out of this city. And so I agreed and let him have it. Good evening, Bear. I saw where Ladrine was saying good evening, so I guess Bear's sneaking out and I missed it. Sorry, guys. Well, Johnny, thank you. I'm glad my channel's a safe place for you. But I try, I try to do that with my channel. I try not to be political. Today, politics is such a big, huge fireball. Everybody's ready to sink their tushes into it no matter what side you're on. And so I don't want my channel to be, I want to be a haven where people can come and just, I'm not saying don't express your opinion. I'm just saying here we don't express that, because this is kind of like the little oasis we go to get away from all that other stuff. And I try my best to make an oasis for you guys to do it. Will, Blackie, do you believe in ghosts? Well, I can tell you stories about my family that they claim to have seen ghosts and things like that. And things where people had visions or sightings of somebody long dead pointing out where something was that they'd been looking for. But, you know, I don't believe or disbelieve, you know. Also, like years ago, they did a in-depth. Carl Sagan was the one that pointed out that time travel was possible but impractical. And here's why. Everything in the universe resonates at a given frequency, and it's a decaying frequency. So moment by moment, it's a slightly different, slightly slower. And we're talking about millionths or billionths measurement here. So it's not something that's just instantaneous, right? And that if you were to take a person and pull them out of modern times and drop them into 1850, they would be a ghost. Because the only reason my hand does not go right through this cup, because there's enough space between the atoms, is because of the force field that is exerted by everything. And they should just pass through each other like smoke. But the force field, that harmonic vibration, prevents them from passing. But if you took a person and you took them back to 1850, they are no longer in proper sequence, and they would pass right through everything like a ghost. So you couldn't go back to 1850 because you couldn't interact with nothing. You couldn't change nothing. You could watch it, but you couldn't do nothing, you know. The only way you could go back to 1850 was you'd have to take the person, put them on the moon, put the bubble around the planet, run the planet back to 1850, then you could put them on the planet in 1850. But they said it was impossible. And in that, someone asked them, said, then what you're describing is a ghost. Is a ghost actually somebody that's out of the energy being that is a person that is there? Because the ghost sighting reporting goes way up during solar flare activity. And so they were trying to link it that you're actually seeing them. They become visible because of all we're being bombarded by far more solar radiation or cosmic radiation or whatever. And they became slightly visible to you in the spectrum. It's the way they were trying to explain ghosts. Now, I read that booklet that was that thick because these were some big glass, big ears, big egg scientists trying to describe time travel, and they sounded more like they were trying to prove that ghosts exists. Although the one said, you ain't seen any caveman ghost and you ain't seen any T-Rex ghosts walking around. So there must be a time limit before you kind of fade out. I don't know. I don't believe it or disbelieve it. You know, just say, if it is, great. I ain't gonna be scared of him because from what I know about science, he couldn't hurt me anyway. What's a poltergeist? He can't touch you. Okay, Dakota's in the house. Dakota says, hey, y'all, I want recipes for my own gun oil for protection and for cleaning. Okay. Olive oil makes really good gun oil. The best gun oil to buy that I know of that I've always used whenever possible was 3M 3-in-1 machine oil. Used on my guns 60 years. Works just fine. But, okay. Trooper 2221. Yeah, it becomes overwhelming after a while, all the stuff we're bombarded with in our daily lives, from social media and news and everything else, and it just gets to be where you need to just go click, turn the dang thing off, pick up a book, or go look at something completely. Like I go look at nature videos, and I go a lot of times I'll turn on a lot of the European type of bushcraft stuff where they're not talking because they don't want there to be a language barrier because they're actually from Sweden or Germany or something like that. And so they just don't talk and they just do their videos because they get better that way because there's not a language barrier to work through. David Bullcalder, earlier someone asked what first aid kit you use. You have a survival wear kit. I have an old military surplus medics kit. The 3 bag comes out is my big medical kit. And I really need to go through that and purge out any old band-aids or bandages that are past their life. But I had a very good big med kit. And I think at some point way back 15 years ago, I may have done a video on my big med kit. But I really need to go through. And I'll probably do that in the dead of this winter when it's too cold to do anything else. I'll probably go through and purge that and go pick up new gauze, new wraps, etc. to go back in there. But I have a smaller kit that handles emergencies and stuff and all my vehicles and things just for that. Robbie, yes, the one I put down there in the description box, that downndirtywoodscraft at gmail.com, you can contact me there. And what I recommend is call the ladies down there. Like I was telling you, the surplus place, they got boots, military surplus boots, all kinds of boots, brand new in the box, never issued. And especially if you got bigger feet and you're looking for the larger size, it's the way to go. Give them a holler because I got my desert boots, which was a desert rat boot, brand new in the box, and they were $60, and they're like $180 set of boots when you buy them on the main market. But I was buying them down there for brand new in the box, never issued, for $60 a piece. So, and my friend Dan Lutz, we went down there and he said, I got big feet. And he said, we got all the big sizes. And he took like a 16 or a 17 triple W. They had it, in those desert boots. And he was custom ordering boots for himself, like $300 a pair. And here was boots that fit him loose enough he could wear multiple socks. He'd get a size bigger or whatever for winter. And he bought 3 sets of boots down there. That was the last time me and him went to that place. That was the last gathering of mine that he came to. And check them out. That'd be a good place to start. But yeah, email me and I'll be glad to do what I can to help. Cool, Robbie. I hope it works out. Yeah, Gray Wolf, that's the one thing with you up there. Plus, you got big bears and stuff. And if somebody got mauled and you arrived on the scene, even if you did take out the bear, a bear will do a lot of damage in a fraction of a second. You may have tourniquets, you may have near amputations. There's all kinds of stuff. So up in that neck of the woods, you definitely need something to try to hold them together at least until you can get, because it's going to be 2-3 hours before anybody can get here to help. So I remember back when they had the old Cops TV show, and it was showing a thing in North Dakota where a state trooper, had done a traffic stop and got shot. And he got back into his cruiser and he's trying to get to help, and he managed to get a hold of the central and tell him he's been shot. and then almost immediately he lost contact because he went down a hole and they simply couldn't pick him up. And he ended up wrecking, and somebody he passed out and he ended up wrecking, and somebody found him and got him to help. But it then shifted over to the other officer, and they asked him, did he know where that officer was? They just heard him say, I've been shot, and da da da, and then he went offline. And did he know where he was? And he said, yeah, he's up on such and such, roughly that area. He talked to him a few minutes before he made the stop. And the dispatcher told him, said, well, he said he's been shot. And he said, well, I'm heading that way. And the officer said, I'm his immediate response backup, and I'm 157 miles away. That was his immediate response backup, was 157 miles away. Running 125, he's still over an hour away. So, yeah, up in them big parts of the country, you're on your own. Matt, have a good night. Oh, yeah. Gray with beaver fever, yeah. Rabbit fever. Grouch nearly lost his youngest son many years ago. He was cleaning a deer, and he must have nicked himself, where he was completely detailing the animal. And he'd been cleaning on that deer for maybe 45 minutes, and suddenly he got just sick as all get out. Got to where he couldn't stand up. The world went to spinning, and his brother came out and took over. He thought he had, was coming down with something. He went in the house. He lay down and cleaned up and laid down on the couch. And within a half hour, he just kept getting worse and worse. Started running a high fever. They got him in the car, took him to the ER, and they're trying to figure out what's wrong with him. They knew something was severely wrong, but they couldn't figure out what they're doing. And then Grouch's dad kind of put two and two together and said, check him for rabbit fever. And so the doc said, what? He said, check him for rabbit fever. And so they had to look it up, and they checked, and sure enough, he was having a violent reaction to rabbit fever. The white-tailed deer had rabbit fever. Never heard of it in a white-tailed deer, but that's where it came from. And so he would have died if Grouch hadn't asked him to check for something so obscure, but beaver fever, rabbit fever. A lot of city dwellers never heard of these things, and a lot of city doctors don't know to check for that stuff either. Oh, David, yeah, you're on a missile crew. I had a high school friend of mine named Greg Turner that he was out there in Dakota in the missiles back in the 80s. And he's told me some stories about that, being out there. But yeah, that can be you get to sit and practice a lot stuff. He said they would do their alerts, their drills. And so the rest of the time, he said, I've sat there and taught myself knitting, got books on knitting. And so I went knitting stuff, and my grandmother and stuff like that, sort of revenge. He'd come home on Liberty, and grandma would have him sweaters and stuff that he hated. And so, but he'd take them because grandma made them, right? So as a joke, he taught himself how to crochet and knit, and he'd make her up stuff. And so he'd have like bright neon green things for Granny and stuff like that. And, that was his little joke to come home with. So, but he had a lot of time to practice in that silo. Jesse, what kind of fiddle farting around in camp do you do to pass time in the evening? Okay, a lot of times, evening time is time to work on gear for me, reorganize gear, stuff like that. And so, they'll be, got your bed done, you've had your bath, clean up, get sweat off of you, you've had your big meal for the day, you've got everything set, and you're sitting around the fire, and you may have a lantern, you may have just a firelight. But that's when I'll organize gear a little bit better, make sure, sharpen knife, check the edge on the knife. If I'm making up a new, let's say I want to make up a new cordage piece, or whatever, I may sit and do it then. You know, that's the downtime of that. Something I can do fairly easily. Braiding paracord. I remember one of Pathfinder, the second Pathfinder I went to, I had gone to the surplus place and bought this bag like that for $20. It was these 30-foot lengths, 25-foot lengths, excuse me, paracord that had been cut off these big cargo sheets, parachutes. So they'd done 2 jumps and they cut the cords off of them. And they just piled them all in here. And so I'm taking those and making donuts out of them. And we're all sitting around the fire, and finally Dan Lutz sitting there said, "Give me one of them." And I showed him how to do it. And then before the end of the camp out, I had everybody in camp making donuts. You know, I've still got a pile of them donuts over. But that's some of the things we'd do at night. And then, of course, you can always read. I put my little light. I carry a really bright little light, and I clip in my glass, and I'd sit there and read. Bring in a paperback or something. And various ways to enjoy. A lot of times I've gone for walks at night in places I knew very well are nice open road to look for wildlife. I've even gone fishing at night, gone down there and get along the edge, and different fish come out at night, so you may get a better fish at night. Bill Van, lost a hunk of flesh out of your arm from rabbit fever. Yeah. That is correct. You don't eat rabbits with an R. Eat rabbit in the month of the R. Down here, we also have a parasite we call wolves. It's actually a maggot that's put in by a bot fly or a type of fly that bites. And there'll be these big old things on a small rabbit or on a squirrel or something. But usually about the first frost, those have hatched out and gone. It doesn't hurt the meat, but it's just unsightly to open up and there's a maggot the size of your pinky in there. Good fish bait, though. But they're covered in spikes. Don't grab them between your fingers; they'll stick you. That's how it stays in the animal. It has these like cactus-like spines that pushes out to hold it in place. So you can't get it out until it matures enough to crawl out. So, like I say, if you see one, don't grab it with your fingers because it will stick you. And but it does make good fish bait. Y'all got to excuse me. I'm getting stuffy. Robbie, good evening. Have a good night in Ireland. Cass Trucker, what are your thoughts on the kukri knife? Oh, boy. Now you opening up a can there. The kukri is the best knife for me in the eastern woodlands as a light chopping tool. It serves the role as a machete, as a digging tool, as a draw knife, as a wedge, as a froe, as a like camp axe, things like that. Mine will do all of those, as well as I can use it for some minor carving, make feather sticks and stuff like that with it. Properly edged and utilized, it's the best tool in the eastern woodlands that I've ever found for a general purpose tool to do all of those jobs. Now, a true machete is better if I'm clearing trail and walking along and I'm having to get stuff over my head and stuff. Yes. Yes, an axe or a hatchet's better in these. But for a one tool, don't plan on doing anything specific, just want a general tool, kukri is the way I go. And it's, to me, the best tool for the job. And I've talked many times in my videos about kukri. And I will probably be doing another kukri video here pretty soon. I've got several people asking me to do another kukri series with it. So I may go back and redo my earlier field guide to the kukri. I did that in like 2009, 2010, and bring it up to modern. And it's the same kukri I had in the video. That'll tell you something. So. Oh yeah, Smoky, the Buck 110 is a really good knife. Trucker, is the Gurkha illegal in the United States? To my knowledge, it is legal. The only knowledge I can really tell you about is in Alabama, and there's only one knife in Alabama that is officially illegal, and that's the Bowie knife, because it was a dueling weapon in the 1830s, and so we still have on the books a dueling law that says if you're found in possession with a Bowie knife, you're charged with dueling, and that you have to spend 30 days in jail. They don't enforce it anymore, but that's only one. The rest of it, if you're using it as a tool, as part of camping or something, they're going to leave you alone, you know. But I will tell you, when I was driving a truck, mine rode with me on my dog box, because there is no minor wound from a kukri. Oh, Satchmo, cool. 50s at night. Oh, that'd be so awesome. Yeah, Gray Wolf, that I've heard that as well, you know. But these city kids ain't been around it. But we grew up in the mud with the dog poop, the cow poop, the chicken poop, everything else. If you ain't been pooped on, you ain't been on a farm and you ain't been around kids. You know, it was everywhere. And so our immune systems are set up for it. You know, but a lot of these city kids, they ain't, got no immune system. And so we're going to survive better than them, a lot of these biological weapon things, I think, because our systems are designed to handle it. Paul, cool. I've got three kukris right now. I've got a kukri, well, no, four. I've got a cold steel kukri machete. I've got a kukri house, shampura. I've got a it's Pine Wall, full tang chopper. It's the hatchet one, and then I got a short officer's jungle kukri. Are the four I've got right now. I used to have like a dozen, and I got rid of them over the years to friends and families and GIs that were going overseas and wanted one and didn't have time to order it, and I'd gift them one. And I had one young man that he came out here to Rooker and was going through SEER school and to be a warrant officer. And he came and asked for some pointers, and I was giving him some pointers and stuff like that. And we talked about kukri quite a bit, and he wanted to order one, and I loaned him. I had I believe it was a British number two, and I loaned it to him for him to use it through SEER school. And then just as soon as he came out of SEER school, he was getting deployed because they were, let's go, let's go, let's go. And he said that he was going to get back to me. I said, no, take it with you, And so he took it. He went over there and was in on a patrol of some kind, playing infantry, even though he's a warrant officer, but they just need warm bodies in these patrols. And there was something went bang, and he ended up going up and over a wall. He was in the back of a vehicle, and he went up and over a wall. And when he said the world was all ringing in his ears, and you're trying to figure out where you're at, and he's in the dark, and he saw two bad guys round at the end of the alleyway running toward him with a AK and something else. And so he felt around on him right quick. He couldn't find a rifle because he blew him up and over the wall. And he said, but when my hand wrapped around the handle of that kukri strapped to my thigh, I heard your voice in my head say, there is no minor wound from a kukri. And he said, and in the dark, you're right. There is no minor wound from a kukri. And so he ended up going to being put in a military hospital. And he left here, and like 8 months later is when he came back. And he had a couple of pins in the leg and things like that. And he tried to give me back the kukri. And I went, no, you carried that in combat. That's yours. You give that to your son. You carried that in combat. No, that's yours. And, but yeah, kukri is a great all around tool. I love it for digging little cat trenches right quick, and draw knifing, making feather sticks, splitting little camp kindling, knocking limbs off of trees, just a great tool. It really is. Yeah, Tennessee Smoky, I hear you. My granddaddy had a case pocket knife, a two blade, three blade Stockman type. My dad had a three blade Stockman. And my 16th birthday, they gave me a three blade Stockman. I got all three of them put up. I don't carry them in the field, but I cherish them. Now, the lock back I carried in from the time I was 8 years old to the time I was 28. I still got that lock back. It's in the collection over there. I retired it and got another knife. But those knives take on a life of their own and a history of their own. And it's one of those things on those cold mornings when you're going hunting and there's just enough light coming in to see what you're doing. And you look up and you see that old buck 110 laying there. You know you're going to put it in your pocket. For all the hunts that thing has rode with you on, even if you ain't doing nothing but taking the grandkid out and hunt squirrels, you're going to pick up that buck 110 and put it in your pocket. So that's what I do. In fact, the buck 110 is riding in my Red Hawk haversack right now. There's an extra blade in the set. Yeah, they are the special memories. But you feel guilty because you hadn't carried, the cheap little Barlow. I've got a really good Barlow and a couple others in the set. And I got a down here below my monitor. I swap them out every few days. I'll pick a couple and put them out here. I got that. I was given this one. This is a Rough Rider reserve, special reserve or whatever that was given to me. It's a really nice knife. I really like this. And then there's an old three blade Stockman, and this one is a saber. And I've talked about sabers before. They were a super cheap knife back in the day. They're really good carbon steel. They were made in Japan. Really nice knife, and you can still find them cheap on eBay and stuff. And so I've collected a lot of the sabers. Only like 5 or 6 models, 7 models I think total, and I've collected one of each. Excuse me. And then down here in this, that's an old saber, 2 blades trapper. That's really good. That was given to me by an old friend now long gone. And so I'll swap out knives every so often just because you start feeling guilty that you ain't carried one in a while. I know, Blackie's weird. James, I painted the handle of a skinning knife. Maybe get a better grip on it. Never cared for that knife after that. Yep, I know what you mean. The old rubber fishing gloves you get where it's a mesh, but it's got a rubber palm. Those are really good a lot of times for cleaning stuff where you're going to get a lot of blood because you get a good grip on your knife with it. And I even had a little short boning knife that had a generic plastic wide handle. And I went and got the friction tape that goes on to the little bitty racket that you use for oh guys, help me out there. It's not tennis, but it's a shorter racket and it's used up against the wall. You hit the ball and it comes up and bounces in your partner. That whatever that thing ain't highlight, but I'm drawing a blank. But that friction tape I put on that handle so I'd have a good grip because we were cleaning a lot of animals back in them days, and that was my cleaning knife in them days. Let's all play. Blackie, I got a question. Share any thoughts you might have on a Bigfoot. I get asked this a lot. Okay, I'll say this. If you go to the Smithsonian or you look it up, Australopithecus gigantus, they will show you what looks like what everybody talks about a Bigfoot, and they will tell you that such a creature did exist, It lived in North America, Europe, Siberia, and China. And then it went extinct 10,000 years ago during the Younger Dryas extinction. They'll tell you such a creature exists. And when me and my wife, 35 years ago, got married and went to the Smithsonian as part of our honeymoon, we saw a display in the Smithsonian. And beside it said, this is not a Bigfoot. This is an Australopithecus gigantus. And it's an extinct creature that lived in North America 10,000 years ago, because they say such a creature did exist. Do I think such a creature could exist in the way back of Canada or the way back of Alaska? I'll give you a good fighting chance on that. But in the eastern woodlands or Florida or whatever, I seriously doubt it, because there's just so many rednecks down here, and we shoot anything that's edible. We fought the Civil War. We fought all these wars. If any such creatures were down here, we would have found them and killed them, probably, and made headlines about it. So could such a creature exist? Possible. It did at one time. But it was the only place I could say today would be Alaska or Canada, in the middle of nowhere where you ain't got nobody for miles and miles and miles. Possible. That's my thoughts. Shaner, what are your thoughts on Dr. Laren Thompson? I'm afraid it isn't ringing a bell on who that is. Satchmo, naked without a pocket knife. Absolutely. If I pick up my pants and I don't feel the weight of that pocket knife in it, I know it. You know. Racquetball. Thank you. That's it, David. Thank you. Racquetball. Yep. Tennessee Smoky. Never seen a Bigfoot, but have felt spooky presence. I have seen things I could not tell you what I saw. You know, that was either a very big black bear stand up and walking away from us several hundred yards out, and we got to where it was had been laying, and had mashed out this big nested area where everything else stand up, it's messed down. Looked like size like where a cow would be laying. There ain't no cows on this land. There ain't nothing like that. But what we saw was a reddish brown, and it stood up. And where I stood, where it had been visible to us, and like I said, I'm 5'10", and you could just see the top of my hat, and we saw it from here up. It had to be an awful big black bear. That's all I got to think, because there ain't no brown bear in Bama. So I don't know. Keep an open mind. Let's play. Glad to do it. Yep, Charles Martin. I remember that. He was on the $6 Million Man. I remember when old Steve Austin tore his arm off too, and sparks went everywhere. Yep. How you doing, Mudslinger? Yeah, we can rebuild him. And you know, it's one of those things that a line I heard on a sci-fi TV show one time. It says, you know, it's a mystery, and it both terrifies and delights me to think that there are wild places in this world, this universe, that we still haven't explored at all. We don't know it all. And there's still the possibility for adventure and strange creatures you never knew existed. Yeah, I like to think there might be something like that around the corner. Oh, okay, I got you. Teamed up with Buck Knives. I didn't know that. The 501. I'll go look at it. PBS, where can a city dweller get away for a night of campfire and conversation and tall tales? Well, it's going to depend on where you're at. PBS, where are you at? What city are you near? Whatever. I'm sure there are places like that. And then there are like-minded individuals that enjoy it as well. But the first question is, where are you at? Magna Cut. Yeah, I've heard of that. Toronto, Canada. Okay. If you're wanting to just go and look up there in not far out of Toronto, the Living History reenactment groups, go look up that. Living History, because I know that Fort Louisbourg and there's a lot of stuff in lower Canada and northern US. Those are places of like-minded people. They're doing historic reenactment. But you're talking about just sit down around a fire and enjoy, those would be people to get to know, because they'll know history, they'll know stories, they'll know stuff like that. And having spent 25 years doing Living History, I can tell you that every night, every campfire was an interesting experience. With so many people from so many walks, having so many different types of knowledge coming together. And it was always a lot of fun. And that's one of the reasons that kept me in it for so many years, was the campfires. So look around up there. You might find something close by. Jesse, good night. Hope you sleep well. Common Sense Karen, I can hear that. When Katrina hit, my wife took care of a child that the mom and dad, the mom had been home with the children when one of the levees broke, and they were in Louisiana, down there close to New Orleans, whatever. And like a 4-foot high wall of water slammed into the house that night and just blew out all the doors and windows. And the kids and them got slammed into a wall and barely got out with their lives. And because of that, water at night scares the crap out of them. They don't want to see a dock. They don't want to see a lake. They don't want to see nothing because the water bit them. And I can understand that fear now because of that. It's something you got to deal with. But you'll never get over it, but you can make friends with it. I was severely claustrophobic. I was buried alive when I was 13 years old. A riverbank caved off on me and buried me alive about 12 feet underwater. And we don't know how long I was down, but it took them at least 8 dives to get me dug out and bring me up. So it took me a long time to be able to go underwater or even to get back into a river. It can be done. It's just going to take time. You got to be willing to say, I'm uncomfortable, and bit by bit recondition yourself, because that was then, this is now. This ain't going to get me. So good luck to you on it. It took me 20 years to dig back out of it, but I got out of it. Yeah, Washburn Billy, those Red Wing boots are really good boots. And yeah, you're right. Now, how we broke in boots was, one is going to be our day off. Okay. Early that morning, we would go in there, and without any socks on, we would we'd take the boots and we'd lay them in a bathtub about half full, or where they come above the boot. Would run the tap as hot as it'd go, water closed off, set the boots in there, leave the boots in there 10 minutes. Then by then the water's cooled off where it's not so hot to you, right? Get in there without socks on, put the boots on, lace them up, and just stand there and start kind of walking in place. Put a bath towel in the bottom so you're not going to clank, clank, clank. But just start walking in place until you kind of get them to take a set to your feet. And then when you did that, you poured the water, got out, poured the water out of them, drained the tub, let them drip dry about 5 minutes. And then you put on like 2 pair of socks, put the boots on, and start walking. And you walk about a mile or so, and then you double back to the house and you change socks. And you walk another mile and you change socks. And usually about the 3rd time you change socks, they're not sopping wet. And you'd wear those the rest of the day. You will swap socks. If they start getting to rub you, swap socks, get dry socks on. But by that night, those boots broke into your feet. I've done them with military boots and stuff like that, and several other ways to break in a boot like that. I never went on a long trip with a brand new boot I hadn't already broke in, because it was just going to be blister city if I didn't. I nearly crippled myself on a 20-mile hike with some guys when I was in high school, because we were going in the Army and we were out preparing. This was our sophomore year, and I was going to be going to basic between my sophomore and my senior year. And so we were going on 20-mile hikes with full 60-pound kits trying to toughen up and get ready, you know. And I had a brand new pair of boots. And for some stupid reason, I didn't bring them boots in. And I was just bloody by the time we got done. It took me several weeks for my feet to heal. That was just stupid on my part. But that's how you learn. How do you become old and wise? First, you must be young and stupid. Common sense Karen, gone night fishing a few times, but then easy stays. I understand. And give yourself a little bit of, all right, I don't feel comfortable. Okay, but is there any real danger? And you kind of got to argue with yourself a little bit. You know, is there any real danger? You know, am I close enough where I can turn and go right there and be just away from it right now? And it takes time. It was really hard for me to get back in a river, which is moving water anyway. It's not stagnant, it's moving, and feel a current on you again. And be anywhere near a high bank that might cave off on you. That was the graduation, as I had to be able to go underwater and swim. And going underwater was almost a panic. I'd take a breath, I'd go under, and I'd pop right back up no matter how hard I tried. And I had to get into a regular swimming pool to break my fear of going underwater. I just would take a deep breath and go under and say, all you got to do is stand up. You know, I just squat down and put my head underwater, or I just lean forward and put my head underwater and sit there and talk to myself going, okay, you can stand up anytime, count to 10. Okay, you got 10. Stand up and breathe. When you're ready, take another breath, put your face in the water, count to 10. And it got to where I would squat and go under. And then I would shove off on one side of the pool and see how far I could glide. And once I got comfortable being back underwater again, then I started getting into the river. And then finally got to where I could go into water at night and swim again and do stuff. Now, today I wouldn't do it because we got way too many gators these days. In my early days, we wasn't hardly no gators. Now there's some big puppies down here. The world record was taken not long, far from me. It was 19 feet long, 2,000 pounds. You know, right down here about 8 to 10 miles from me. Back about 4 or 5 years ago now, there was a lady that she had 100 and some odd pound big Malamute, you know. And he went running down the boat ramp. She'd take him down there and let him run, and he'd splash around and stuff like that. And that river right there is only about 6, 8 feet deep, but it's a boat ramp. And so it's fairly deep, steep banks coming down to the concrete boat ramp. And the dog went running down there in the water and splashed in the water, and this 16, 17-foot gator lunged out, grabbed him, crushed him, and turned. She saw it, but the dog never had a chance to even make a noise. It lunged out, grabbed him, crushed him, and just rolled under the water. And he was gone. And she saw her dog. The dog was bigger than me, you know. And it's because it was laying there. You made a splash and disturbed it. It lunged. So going swimming at night now in the river would not be any fun anymore. You know, I am too old and wise to risk such a thing unless I got no choice. Yeah, Gray Wolf, I hear you. The $300 real expensive sets are really nice when you're trying to get that super precision stuff. Ain't really practical for the field. And I prefer something I can just throw in the pack, you know, an old Lansky sharpener, or a puck to handle my axes and my kukri and stuff. I swear I don't set these up before you guys make the comment. This is where I keep my stuff at. You know, that was the funny thing with me. I'm going to tell this, and we're going to get off here pretty quick, guys. Old Dan Lutz, who was so big, like 6'7", right at 400 pounds, and he had told me that he wanted to come down and me and him go to the swamps. and we was going to go north of Mobile into the Delta, which is the second largest Delta swamp, so to speak. Only the Mississippi is bigger, and it's 300 and something thousand acres of swamps and canals and eddies and bayous and islands, and it's just pure wilderness in there. And they are some big gators in there, big snakes, and it's tidal. So the at high tide, the bank's only 3 foot up above you. At low tide, it's 8 feet above you. And it's that black, gooey, stinky mud. You ain't climbing up it. So you're in a V like this with 8 foot high banks, and you're in here with a 16-foot alligator underneath your boat looking at you. Me and Grouch did that in 2013. And so when me and Grouch was doing it, we came around the bend, and this width of this little canal we're in between islands is only like 14, 15 feet wide total. And the bank's like, we're at low tide, it's probably about 12 foot up to the top of that bank. It's just goo. You ain't climbing up it, And he was ahead of me, and we came around the bend, and there was this big oak had fallen off the bank and was in the thing blocking our path. And old Grouch didn't even break a stride. He just rammed the front end of the bow of the canoe up into the tree, walked up it, pulled his cooker out, and went hacking a hole through the canopy to get us through. Well, I pulled in behind him, and I'm holding station, back here. And finally the water cleared because us disturbing stuff had made like a cloud early on. And so finally the water cleared. And when the water cleared, I looked down, and we had 3 big gators. And he's on a limb that's about that big, just a limb, and he's standing on it. It's in the water. So his feet are about a half inch. The bottom of his foot's like a half inch in the water. It's almost even with the top of his boot. And he's standing on that limb, taking his kukri, hacking everything out. And straight underneath him is about a 14, 15-foot alligator like this, and she's got her nose about that far from his feet. And I went, "Yo, Francis." He turned around and looked at me, and I went, "You got a girlfriend?" And he looked straight down at that gator and said, "She just wants to suck on my toes." And he stepped onto the next limb and kept going. That old Marine ain't worried about this. That'd been go out in a blaze of glory, a kukri knife and a 12, 14-foot gator. All right, that's a story. And but once I told Dan all that stuff, and Dan went and looked up, and we had the world record alligator had been caught in Alabama right after that. And suddenly he calls me up and said, "I'm canceling the trip. I'm not coming down there." Why? Health? What? What? No, we're not getting it. No. No. Why? No, I'm not. I'll go with bears. I'll handle the rest. But I am not getting down there with them big dinosaurs. You got dinosaurs in Alabama. I am not going down there. I seen Jurassic Park. I ain't going down. And so we never got to do it. Me and him was going to go camp for like 10 days in there. Well, Steve Kingsbury, yeah, you got in here right at the tail end of it, but thanks for dropping in. Okay, let's see what we got here. Shaner, can you give advice to these young gents if they start a YouTube channel? I just unsubscribed from a youngster. I made a constructive criticism. The guy turned off his comment, so I unsubscribed. I understand what you're saying. And Chris Evans, hello. A lot of people, when they go to do YouTube or whatever, or Instagram or whatever, and they have not sufficiently got a thick enough skin to realize that there are going to be people that love you and people that just hate your guts because it's Tuesday. You hadn't done anything, but they're just going to be that way. And you've got to have a fairly thick skin. And I've had people comment on my videos, "God, you're the most stupid inbred redneck I have ever heard." And I go, "Thanks for watching. Don't waste your time listening to me then. Move on." But a lot of these younger people, they get upset way too easy. And that's going to cause them trouble. They have not had the opportunity to, Chris Evans, hello, if I hadn't said hello. They haven't had the opportunity to toughen up a little bit. We come from the generation of suck it up, buttercup, you know, and I've had people that, just get in your face, want to mouth off. Go ahead. What you're about to say is 1/8 billionth of the world's opinion, and I will treat it as such. But everybody's entitled to their opinion. And if you're going to be public, you're going to be somebody out here, you got to be willing to take the hits. It ain't all praise. And I had a young man ask me, he started a channel, and he said, what advice can you give me? And I told him it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll. I started, and Dave Canterbury started within just a couple months of each other back in 2008. I remember when Dave was sitting in the kitchen floor with a army blanket over a washing machine and a camera talking about bow hunting. You want to get up, you got to take the hits and take it as constructive criticism, because you don't learn from the people that love you. You learn from the people that hate your guts, and listening to them, why do they hate you, and kind of say, okay, you're right. I am not doing that well. I need to improve. And so even take such as that as constructive criticism. And it's made me a better person on here. It really has. And I'll tell people in a heartbeat, thanks for keeping me honest. Where they point out I did something wrong. You're right. You are correct. I did something wrong. And thank you for keeping me honest. That's the way to grow. That's the way to learn. Because I don't know it all. I know quite a bit, but I don't know it all. I can learn from anybody. Whoa. PBS, I saw a camping YouTuber who carried a small stack of hexagonal mirrors for solar parabolic heater cooker. Will work probably very well in Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and those areas where we got a lot of intense sun. But you've got to have the right sun. You've got to have right angles. So sounds like an interesting way to do it. The question is, how often can you do it? Well, guys, that's an hour and 52 minutes. That's basically 2 hours. Guys, I really enjoy the comments. Thank you so much for tonight. I really enjoy it. And I look forward to every night, every Thursday, getting to see you guys in this talk. I will be back on next Thursday night. And I want to wish y'all safe journeys. Take care and God bless. And I'll see y'all next time. Have a good night.